Nerds. I hope all is well. I just wanted to react a bit to the comments about Lorenzo Musetti's sudden switch from the Boom Pro in his first match at the Next Gen Finals to the Head Extreme Tour in the next round, because I saw some comments saying it must be a shit racket, or the racket is obviously not good because he made the switch back. You have to understand something. He's a pro player. He's used to one setup. That he's testing a new racket is ultra rare for a reason. They need a long time to get used to a setup, and that involves a string, if there's extra weight to the racket, and especially a new racket. So it's not just, you pick up a racket and you play about the same. These guys and girls play with such small margins, and they're professional at what they do, meaning they put in hours and hours every day. We can't even compare to playing the same sport. So it's a little bit rare to find players actually testing things in a tournament. And this is a little bit of an exhibition tournament. And that's why I wanted to try the Boom Pro. I'm not defending the Boom Pro. I only tried it for like 1 hour, 30 minutes. So I liked it then, but I might not like it when I try it properly for my review. But I'm just saying you can't really give that sweeping statement about rackets. It becomes a little bit infantile if you're describing rackets as, it's probably bad because I played 10 minutes with it. It's about what works for you, and it's about really getting used to racket and growing with it. So you really need to be comfortable with what you use. So I thought it was a pretty gutsy move of him to try to get a bit more extra power, but maybe he didn't feel the confidence. Maybe he wasn't just good on that day. But overall, of course, when you're starting your new racket journey, or if you're trying it in the first time in a match and you're not winning, you're losing that match, that will kind of sting, and it might, force you to give up the racket mentally. It doesn't mean it's a bad racket. It might be good if you persist with that racket. I'm just saying that's what's going to happen, because it's so important to feel comfortable and to have 100% confidence in your equipment. It's going to help, especially on the pro level. It's going to help you as well if you get to a state where you feel 100% like your racket and string setup is kind of an extension of your arm. You know exactly where the ball is going, and you knew what you need to do to hit a certain shot and so on. That's the ideal situation. Switching rackets like I do for testing and so on, that's not to be recommended for anyone. And even switching a little bit is not generally the best idea. And so if you need to commit to a racket, you need to really give it time and really assess what it does to your game and so on. It's quite a process. It's not something to be taken too lightly, especially not for the pros. So that he did this, I thought he could kind of sacrifice a match and give it a go for this non-ATP rated tournament. I think that's fine, but I wouldn't read too much into it. I also want to give you an advice based on the situation. For example, you've been playing with a racket for 5 years. You want more power. You think it's time to move on. Maybe you have 3 of that racket that you're leaving. You played just a few rackets. There's one you really like. You're playing well with it for the first couple of weeks. You decide to sell your old rackets. And 2 months in, you want them back. You're feeling like you're not playing as well with this racket anymore, or something has changed, or you're just longing for the control you had in the previous racket, or the power, depending on how the switch went. If you have a racket that you really like and you've been playing with for quite a while, don't sell that racket or throw it away or give it away, whatever. Try to keep that racket, maybe keep it in your bag in case you run into a match situation where you're not playing well. Maybe you want to feel 100% at home again. I've done this mistake many times, and this is from my own experience, 100%. Sold rackets that I was really at home with, that I knew how they played 100%, moved over to something else, have a few bad sessions or have a bad period, or realize this racket is not, that I switched to is not really for me, and then I want my old rackets back, and I've sold them or traded them or something. So my advice generally, if you have a racket you're really connected to, but you feel like you want to move on to something new, try to keep that racket. Keep one of them in the bag, strung, ready, if you want to go back home, so to speak. So create your racket home, a string setup. Everything that you feel connected to is very important to your success as a tennis player, in my opinion. And that's something you can learn from this whole situation with Lorenzo. Obviously, he's used to the Extreme Tour now. He's been playing pretty well with it, but he wanted to see if he could, get a little bit more. And in the end, he had a bad result, whether that's on his day form or whether it was, wasn't used to the racket or something else. We cannot really know. But it was obvious that he would go back to the other racket the next day. I was 100% sure, unless he had won his match, then he would kept on playing with the boom. But maybe he keeps on testing the boom from time to time. Maybe he switches in the end. We don't really know that. Or maybe he never picks it up again. Time will tell. But I don't think it's a bad racket just because he played it one match, didn't win that. Tennis is such a mental sport. Even everything around the rackets and the strings and everything are really strongly connected to your psyche and, you know, the mental state you're in. A lot of it is also placebo. I feel like I'm playing better with this one. I should be playing better with this. This one is at home. Maybe they weigh the same. I mean, there's a lot of things that are connected to what we think is true. So you have to take all this with a pinch of salt. So these sweeping statements, I don't agree with. That's pretty much it. So Lorenzo back to the Extreme Tour. He won his second match. How will he do in his third match? We will see. What will happen with Lorenzo and the Boom Pro? I don't know. I will keep following up this story because I find it fascinating. I will also compare the Boom Pro and the Extreme Tour as soon as I receive the demos from Head. So really keen to see how they actually play and what I can detect with my relatively lame tennis. If you want to support the work I do, please join Patreon, patreon.com/tennisnerd. You know this stuff hopefully already. And if you want to buy anything tennis related or any tennis service, check out my affiliates. The links are in the description below. I get a small commission at no cost to you. Thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe and tell your tennis friends about Tennisnerd. Have a nice day and don't forget to play some tennis.